there's this idea that exists amongst the beliefs and the mind of a lot of people I speak with that work-life balance or a balanced life or a more harmonious life just isn't possible given contemporary times and how stressed people are feeling and so on. And what happens then if we think something's not possible? We just don't even try. We give up and we can actually go into quite a dark place. But guess what? I'm here to tell you, after 30 plus years working with people to help, get that sort of harmony and balance with people's health, but also as a health practitioner, but also as a coach through that lens as well, and working with people achieving their goals in business or career or health. It is possible to have work-life balance or a balanced life. It's actually really a matter of how you think about it. And if you're thinking you're going to, one day I'm just going to get that work-life balance and then I'll be right, everything will be okay then. Well, it just doesn't quite work like that. It'd be nice if it did. It'd be great if you could get into this fantastic spot and stay there forever, like everything's working really well. But, life intervenes. So what's one way that you can know if you're starting to go out of balance with your life, there's less harmony? Well, your body will tell you. Your mind and your emotions will tell you. And one of the most common things I see when I'm starting to work with someone, and I do a lot of personal programs with people, I'll pop the link down there, you can have a free call about that. And what I find is people are often very overwhelmed by the time they get to see me. Like their career might be taking a dive because they're exhausted, because they feel internally conflicted, or, their relationship or their health or all of these things. I draw all of these things together because it's pretty impossible to have a very strong, career or business if you're not feeling well in your health. So that's what, my sweet spot, bringing those two together. But look, I'm talking to anyone who's struggling with overwhelm and feels that life's spinning out of control. So one thing you can do, and which I had to learn, very young in life, because I actually sort of died and I had to learn that way. I might tell you that story in this because that's probably quite pertinent for this topic. But one thing you can do is just take a step back, let go of some things that are not urgent. Take some time out. And I teach people a very specific, very simple morning meditation that I've been doing something similar for probably 25 years. And I love to share it and actually do it with the people I'm working with to cement it in them. And it helps your brain, untangle all the wiring in your brain so that more creative thought can come in and you're coming into your day with much more poise and balance to start with. So how do you know if you're out of whack, as we often say here in Australia for our overseas friends? Well, your body will tell you. Often I'll be seeing people and they say, well, I've been getting these signs and symptoms that I've never had before. And it might be something like they're not sleeping well, they're waking a lot, or they might just be exhausted all the time, or they might have something more serious like an autoimmune condition come in. And it's often after a stressful time that these things happen. Or it might be purely emotional, like there might be high anxiety, there might be depression, there might be, some other, way of feeling that you really don't want to feel. And it feels like it's like coming out of left field. Well, it's not, because it just means we haven't listened to the more subtle signs that we're out of balance, that we're not listening to what our heart is telling us about how we want to live. And that's what I do with people a lot, you know, teach a lot of skills and do a lot of processes with people to understand that, so that they can do well both in their career and their business and their general life. So what do you do? So number one, you listen to your body. Now I'll tell you what happened to me when I wasn't listening to my body. And I actually realised that I actually haven't told a lot of people this, and I probably should have over the years, because it's inspiring to know that someone else has come back from something serious if you're not doing too well yourself. But in my mid-20s, I became quite seriously ill. Now, it seemed like it was sudden, but when I looked back, of course, it wasn't. But I also had really extreme panic attacks, and I had a lot of, you know, developing health issues, which was so strange because I'd always been healthy up to that point. And, you know, a year or two later, when we had our first child, it got really bad because I actually died when I had my first child. And that was because there was some problems with my liver and all sorts of other things going on. And I hadn't listened to the signs because I didn't know how. Excuse me. I didn't have someone like me to tell me what to look for, to know when I'm starting to go out of balance, so that I can pay attention to that and put steps in place to move back into more of a place of harmony. So no, I had to have the proverbial sledgehammer over the head, and I actually died. And I know I did because, you know, my GP, who was the obstetrician as well, kept saying, you know, did you see a white light? And I'm like, no, because I told him when I was 3 months pregnant, I had a dream that something would happen, but that I would be okay. So in my mind, even though this happened, I was gone, I just knew it wasn't the end. So I work a lot with intuition. So, you know, he understood this too, and he took notice and made sure that there was some emergency procedures in place, thank heavens. And, but really, you know, some months later I was still extremely ill, and I'd been to specialists, been to all sorts of people. And he actually was a wonderful GP, and he said, well, look, I don't, you know, can't really do anything, but have you thought of seeing a herbalist? And I'm like, not really, but I thought anything was worth a go, because I'd basically been told there was nothing good ahead for me, and I had a tiny little baby I wanted to live for as well. So off I trotted, and you know, that changed my life, because not only did I start to improve thanks to this person, but I also began a whole new career. I left the corporate world. You know, my first degree was in business and organisational change and things like that, which I thought I loved, and actually I did. I gained a lot of fantastic skills that have helped me in life, but it didn't really touch my heart. I had to dig deep, and it looked like I basically had that hammer over the head, so that I could change my ways, be much more conscious how I was living, and do something that came from my heart space. And as a result, 30 plus years later, I've had a wonderful career in, you know, as a healthcare provider in natural solutions for women's and lots of other health problems, but also, you know, doing a lot of work in the deeper process of helping people understand, you know, what's going on for them, you know, in their mind, in their spirit, their soul, and how to get back on track and achieve what they want in life. So, you know, don't let that be the case for you. Don't let it be a big hammer over the head. So when you start getting little signs that are saying, you know, it can be just niggling things like a sense of unease, like something doesn't feel quite right. And that can be not just about something you're doing in life, it can be about someone you might be around quite a bit. And that's not a judgment thing. It just might be that friendship or, you know, whoever you're, you know, isn't gelling with you. It's just not, you know, different personalities or something. And sometimes you have to find a way of being able to deal with that while that you have to continue that. But sometimes you can just let that go. But you start to become aware of the nuances of your energy once, you know, especially when I'm, you know, helping you understand how to look for that and how to feel that in your body mind. And that helps you avoid a lot of problems. And of course, we're all still human. I mean, I had a good reminder of making sure I working from my heart space and living from my heart space recently, because I was in a situation I didn't particularly want to be in living wise, but it was necessary to do so for a while, and I did it for a little bit too long, and honestly I was feeling like I was losing the will to live. That's how bad it was getting, and I'm thinking, oh, I've been here before, I know what's going on. So I'm not a very conventional person, so I'm actually recording this in my motorhome. I left where I was living. I need to be out and about a lot. I love seeing different places, meeting different people, but also, you know, I love to be in nature. And you know, so a lot of the time when I'm running my business and, you know, I might be coaching people, it might be from my motorhome. It might be even from outside. I was going to take this outside, but it's a little bit too windy for that. So yeah, what's your experience? You know, certainly take some time at the start of each day or at any time in each day when you're feeling a sense of unease, just to go quietly, some space, even just for a few minutes, and just close your eyes, breathe into your heart space. Just take a few minutes and just allow, you know, any messages that might want to come up to you. And it might be something as simple as like, I just need to rest more. Or it might be, I think I need to be just not in this environment and I'll do something different. Or it might be, oh, I think it was that thing I had for lunch. I feel quite yucky after that, you know. So you can, you know, tap into your innate wisdom. And, you know, everyone has intuition or innate wisdom, as I call it. A lot of people don't think they have, and they'll say things to me like, oh, well, you know, I don't have any intuition at all. And I'll say, well, can you remember the last time you felt like you shouldn't have been somewhere, or you should have done something different? And I'll never forget this classic one several years ago when I was speaking at an event. And the woman said, it was a challenge. She was challenging me by saying, oh, no, I don't have any intuition or any of that sort of airy-fairy stuff. And I said, well, you know, when was the last time you just got a feeling that something wasn't right or you should have done something differently? And she immediately clutched her heart and said, oh, there was an old man, you know, sitting on a bench on his own, and he was looking a bit sad, and I walked past and I felt I should have stopped and just said hello and spoken to him. But I kept walking because I was too busy and I had to get back to work. And she said, I felt guilty all day, and I felt really bad that night. And I didn't sleep very well. She said, I even went back the next day to see if he was still there, but he wasn't. And I said, well, that's your intuition, you know, that feeling that you had when you walked past him. And did you notice that you put your hand on your heart? You know, that was coming from your heart space. Some people will put their hand on their belly or their chest. It depends where they get their messaging from. So yeah, take notice of these little signs that can come to you and tell you, you know, oh, just move a little bit that way, or maybe go down that path instead of that path. Listen to them. You don't have to immediately do what they say, but take notes. You know, you might like to start journaling. And when you do a morning practice in particular, first thing in the morning, before you do anything else for, say, 20 minutes or so. And I do teach people how to do this in my one-to-one programs. But when you do that, you'll start to notice that you're much more in tune with what's right for you because you've given yourself that space. So, yes, certainly get in touch with me. I'll put the link to a free strategy call down below, and also to my other links. You can certainly also get my women's health book there to start working on your natural options to feel a lot better, and people who are really inspired and really wanting to dig into, you know, aligning their life goals and their business and career goals with what comes authentically to them. Then you can make a free strategy call, and I'd love to speak to you, and we can see in that if we might have the potential to work together to really accelerate your journey. So, Wendy here, signing off. Have a fantastic day.